Hello and welcome to another episode of Challenges in the Street. My name is Battalion Chief Raphael Gibson, and today I have the pleasure and the honor to be here hosting the show. So before we get started and we talk about all the great information that Dr. Kelsey is going to share with us today, I just wanted to give you guys a quick update on what's going on up here at our training academy. So we'll start with AST. As you may noticed, AST has picked back up. We're in the process of delivering that amazing training that Captain Wheeler and her crew has put together for the department. It's down in the 1st Battalion area where the old Washington Adventist Hospital used to be. There's a lot of really good stuff that they put together, some real life training, some hands-on stuff that's going to really challenge and hopefully get everybody back to the basics. So with that, I wanted to take just a quick second. You guys may not be aware of what it takes to put this stuff together and what it takes to really bring this type of training together and provide it for you guys. So I wanted to take a second to thank all of the duty chiefs, right? Scheduling and Chief Kerrigan, who also helped us with getting topics and getting all of the things together for the training. Chief Bautrowski, who has provided us radios. Chief Bush and his shop at Small Tools that's been able to give us the equipment and all the support. So as you can see, it truly takes a village, right? And even things like getting hold harmlesses and contracts together with our private stakeholders to be able to get this training out to you guys. It truly does take a village to be able to make this stuff work. And I wanted to take a second and acknowledge that and thank all those people for their work. Secondly, I'll talk about recruit class, right? We currently have a recruit class in. There's currently 28 folks in our recruit class. They're currently scheduled to graduate July 12th, and the next recruit class is going to start on June 17th. So as you can see, there's going to be a period up here at the training academy where we're going to be busier than usual. We're going to have 2 training classes going on at the same time. So space and time, it's just going to get really crazy up here. So just for your situational awareness, as promotional season comes upon us and you're coming up here to take classes, or you have regular hazmat or all the other stuff that we provide on a daily basis up here, right? It's just going to get even crazier once summertime really hits. ALS stuff. Currently, we still have the 3 sessions of ALS class, 3 or 4, don't quote me on that number, going on right now, ALS class. The shift-based classes are getting ready to finish up in early June, mid-June, and they'll be out in the stations doing their ride-alongs and their preceptorship. And the volunteer nights and weekends class is going to finish up a little bit later in the year, just because their schedule and the amount of work that they need to do. So be on the lookout for those folks to come out and start participating in your station. Lieutenant Laraco is the person that's going to be coordinating with you guys. I'm sure you've had many interactions with him, and you know the deal. I mentioned all the promotional classes going on right now, right? EMT refreshers in full swing right now. We also have a bunch of promotional classes and Fire Officer 1, Instructor 1, and all of those sorts to get you guys what you need so you can take the promotional exam. So those are all going on right now. And I'll just close out with the last event in April on the 25th. Just as a reminder, you might have seen it in an email from me, but we have Bring Your Child to Work Day here on the 25th. It's actually going to be a really cool event. If you came last year, you saw it, right? The folks from the union provide food. Beef Brothers are going to be here. There's going to be plenty of food, plenty of events. We have special ops coming up. We have all kinds of different folks and different events. The police also do a really good job of doing some canine stuff and motorcycle stuff. So it's really neat, really good opportunity to bring your kids up here to see what we do and share with them some of our training academy to-dos. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over here to Captain Machalas. He's going to be the moderator as always. But Dr. Kelsey, as some of you may or may know, has been working with us for a little while now. She's works at FROMS with Chief Stanton and Captain Cummins there. But she does a lot of really amazing work for us. She is the only athletic trainer that we know of in the state of Maryland that does what we do for our department. So the stuff that you're going to hear today, the stuff that she's doing for us, nobody else in the state of Maryland is getting these services and getting this stuff to make sure that our workforce is ready and have what they need to perform your duties well. So without further ado, I don't want to take too much of the thunder away. I'll turn it over to Cap Machala and have a good episode. Oh, one last thing. If you're a chief officer, don't forget to go on that form. I'm going to update it here in 1 second. You guys can go on that form and log in. Make sure you get your COPDI hours. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Chief. And again, thanks everybody for tuning in for another episode of Challenges in the Streets here at the Training Academy. There's a couple other minor housekeeping things before we continue. This is scheduled for a 60-minute episode, so we should be right around there. And if you have any questions as we go along, we'll try to fit them in, where we can. So Dr. Kelsey is going to kind of do her PowerPoint or her presentation. I might ask her some questions that if you guys have anything, just feed it through the live chat. Chief Gibson's over there. He'll monitor it and try to get them to us so we can get your questions answered. So again, not to take up too much of our time, I actually learned a little bit already this morning about what Dr. Kelsey Tanler does. So she is our MCFRS certified athletic trainer. So I kind of had a misconception about what she did or didn't really understand it myself, even though I've read the newsletters that get put out and I got a preview of her presentation. But I know that this episode was kind of titled FROMS and other things, but she's not really FROMS. She kind of is, so the way it was explained to me, and you can correct me as we get started, but basically she works for Chief Stanton, and there's kind of like, there's FROMS, and then there's what she does with injury prevention, which is being her focus. So this presentation is really just all about preventing injuries, extending your career, maybe little things you can do. She's not going to sit here and yell at us about eating right and PTing. Like those things might help extend your career, right? But they're not really her sole job. So I'm going to turn it over to her and get started. And again, if you have any questions, please filter them through. That's what she's here for. So,
sure.
Kelsey.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So yeah, I'm Kelsey Tanler. Like I was saying, I'm the certified athletic trainer for the department. I started about a year ago, last February. This is an inaugural position, so you guys have had kind of other people in the past, exercise physiologist, dietitian, personal trainer, but no one under the kind of role that I fall under with the injury prevention. So kind of bridging that gap today to make sure that you guys know what I'm here to do and what I'm here to help you guys with and ultimately try to keep you out of FROMS. So yeah, I'm under the FROMS umbrella, but I'm trying to keep you from going over there. So I guess to get started, because the easiest thing is who I am. So I have a bunch of letters after my name, what they all mean. So I'm a board certified and licensed athletic trainer. So that means that I paid a lot of money to take a board certification test and did a lot of school and pretty much covered essentially all the same things that a physical therapist would cover in school, except we're more on the performance side of things. So less ADL, Gen Pop, as physical therapy usually falls under, kind of returning people to daily life. We work with more of the physically active, performance-based settings. So I also have my doctorate in athletic training, so that's what the DAT is, and that was just a clinical doctorate, essentially covering more aspects of our job within athletic training. My background, I came from working the traditional sports medicine setting, so a majority of where you see athletic trainers at are, with your high school sports, collegiate sports, division, or professional athletics. So we operate kind of in that setting, that the public safety setting with law enforcement and fire has become fairly new. But I had previous experience working with Fairfax County Police. I was a resident athletic trainer there during my doctorate, and that's where I kind of got the love for working within public safety. I also come from a family of first responders. My brother's a career firefighter, my dad is retired law enforcement, and my fiance is in the police academy currently. So I always grew up around that kind of setting of people that serve the community and knew that when this was the path I wanted to go down, this was the population that I wanted to serve and kind of make sure that they were performing well in order to do their jobs.
So basically the big difference in like a physical therapist and what you do. So like, again, I kind of thought, maybe it was all the same or you did a similar job. But a physical therapist is basically like, hey, you hurt yourself doing whatever, we treat you to bring you back and get you better. Whereas your job is really to help us prepare to do our job well, right? And basically be able to perform.
Yeah, so ultimately our job as athletic trainers is to keep you within play for as long as possible. For you guys, keep you on the floor for as long as possible. So, whether it's preventing injuries from occurring, treating or correcting ones that, those minor aches and pains that could become a bigger problem. We're trying to keep you as optimally performing as possible without pulling you out from anything, versus with physical therapy, obviously you're off the floor, you're missing time out of work. You're pretty much being returned to I would say like activities of daily living is essentially their thing, that, you know, you kind of come in the door, they check that box of, hey, he's able to walk on his own, he's able to lift this amount of weight, and once you hit that point, all right, you're back into work. Versus with me, maybe you hit that point, but, you know, that point was not preparing for you to be back into work too. So that's kind of where we fall versus that physical therapy, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's a huge selling point for you, is we all want to perform our job at a high level, right? I mean, that's, you know, so hey, come see you and help me do that. So
Right.
cool.
And why I'm here, this is kind of the biggest thing I always will preach to people, is that I'm a resource to you guys for therapy evaluation, injury prevention, and then assistance in lengthening your time on the floor. So my job here is not to kind of be a spy for FROMS and shoot you over there and kind of, you know, tattletale on you guys for issues that I see. It's more so to keep you on the floor longer and make it that you don't have to go through there for minor things. So just to kind of cover, like I was saying, athletic trainers and public safety have become a lot more popular across departments, and that's because we're now realizing that you all in the fire service operate very, very similarly, if not identical to an athlete. So, you know, there's very few individuals on earth that have to go from 0 to 100 in a matter of a couple of seconds. And, you know, firefighters and EMTs and EMS are in that category, and so are professional athletes. So you guys operating that same way means that you require that same level of care. Like Chief Gibson said, we actually are setting the standard within the state. I'm the only certified athletic trainer working for a fire department in the state. I'm actually the only athletic trainer working with any public safety department in the state. So we're kind of leading the way in terms of setting that standard for the rest of the departments that are within this state. So currently a couple departments that have kind of hit headlines: Oklahoma City, River Township, and Johnson County. I believe that's in Indiana, and then Greenwood, which is also in Indiana. They've started to kind of create these programs that have shown a lot of results in terms of decreasing injury numbers. So they've been able to see within 10 months with, this was San Antonio, that their documented injuries have gone down exponentially. They've also seen decreased time off the floor. So people that otherwise wouldn't go in for some kind of injury or complaint are getting that treatment on the job, and they're not losing time on the floor, or those injuries aren't becoming a bigger problem in the future. And it's also increasing time on the job and morale. So those kind of nagging issues where, you know, hey, you know, this is something that's bothering me, I don't know where to turn to, I don't know where to go. That's kind of what I'm here to help with, is to be able to be that resource for, hey, you know, my hamstring pulled when I was doing PT, what can I do? You know, it's not something that's going to take me off the floor, it's not going to affect my job, but I'm uncomfortable, I'm in pain, I'm, you know, having this level of discomfort. So I think the easiest way to kind of describe what I'm here to do with the department is the 3 different pieces. So injury evaluation, injury prevention, and then injury prediction. So that first piece of injury evaluation, so this is where kind of that first piece lies for most people, and this is where that clinic that I have set up at 32 comes into play. So providing that therapy evaluation, early symptom evaluation is where we kind of term it too. Developing that individualized program with corrective exercise to help mitigate that complaint. Restoring your function, strength, correcting any weird biomechanical movements, dysfunctions that I might see, areas of weakness that could cause a further injury, and ultimately keeping you on the floor longer and giving you all the tools that you need to keep you out of that FROMS or workers' comp process. So how this process works: first piece, obviously you have some kind of injury or complaint, whether it's work-related, non-work-related. I've seen people that they've had you know, discomforts, complaints from playing with their kids, and I've seen people that it's actually happened on the fire ground. So I see both sides of the coin there. And what these complaints are, you know, musculoskeletal pain, that weird achy muscle pain that you've been having in your quad for the last couple of weeks, come and stop by and see me. Chronic pain or dysfunction, you've been having that chronic low back pain for months and months and you don't know where to turn to, that's something I'm more than happy to evaluate and work with you with. Weird muscle soreness, like I said, and then those very minor injuries. So kind of the caveat here is those injuries that aren't going to take you off the floor immediately for medical attention, or it's going to make it that's unsafe for you to do your job. So if you walk in and see me and it's very obvious, like you know, your ACL is completely blown out, I'm going to turn you around and send you the other way. But, you know, if it's something where, hey, I kind of tweaked my elbow doing something during a drill, come and talk to me. We can decide like next steps from there. From there, work-related is kind of the more important piece that, regardless, we want you to document it. We just want it to be that that first report is there so we have that paper trail that keeps you guys safe. Those obviously communicating with your supervisor and writing that down, making sure it's documented, and then they can kind of determine if this is a case where you'd be able to come and see me. It's not work-related, you don't need medical attention, just make an appointment, which I'll kind of cover later of how to do that. If you don't need the immediate medical attention, you can be referred over to me and we'll kind of make that plan. And Biggest thing too was what I would tell everyone, this assessment is confidential. It does not get shared with FROMS. So I'm not turning around and taking everything you told me and telling it to the doctors up at FROMS. Everything between you and I is confidential. It stays private. The notes that I take when people see me typing, it's for my eyes only, and I look at that to kind of follow up with you. And then from there, making that appointment on or off shift, you can get detailed to me. So that detail request goes into myself and Chief Stanton, or you can go off going. So I have appointment times that you can come 7, 8, 9 a.m. off going from your shift. And then in that first appointment, what we'll cover is that assessment, and then we'll make a plan. So from that assessment, we'll determine, where is that area of discomfort arising from, or what is this pain coming from, or where, what is the ultimate problem here? And we kind of make that treatment plan. What this looks like, home exercise program, we'll go over some of it together, corrective exercise. I try to make it as easy as possible that everything that I give you guys to do can be done at the station, it can be done at home, minimal equipment, tell me what equipment you have at home. Obviously, I understand the setup of all the stations that I know. Someone that's at 24's gym setup is going to look very different from someone at 32 or,
Right.
25. So from there, from that point, we'll kind of, whether it's going to be that it needs follow-ups after that point, each month, every couple of weeks, or I have a lot of people that they come once and they solve their problem, they don't come and see me again, which is the ideal. I would hope that you guys, to the point, if it'll help everyone, you could put me out of business. That's ultimately my goal.
So I think that's important enough to just, I think it's worth repeating, especially for, the work-related injuries, right? So either as an officer or as a firefighter, whoever, right, you suffer a work-related injury, you think so. Like I know we were talking about earlier, like I've had a lot of where, hey, so-and-so was doing PT, they come up, my back's just feeling tight, I was deadlifting, whatever. I think it's the important first steps, right? Obviously, immediate medical attention if somebody needs it, the whole, notifying your supervisor, getting that medical attention if you need it,
Right.
filing a first report of injury, and then as an officer, you're making sure that, okay, you're good to keep working, you sure you don't want, you go through that aspect,
Right.
then, okay, well, if you need something later, obviously let me know, but also recommend you as a resource. So it's something for officers to keep in mind, right? So
Yeah, and you guys as officers too know the individuals in your crew better than I do, unless I've met them before. So you'd be able to determine like, hey, maybe this is a bigger problem than, maybe what they're letting on. That it's no different from working with an athlete in a setting if they have a concussion. Like their parent is going to know their usual demeanor more than I ever would. So that's kind of where you guys come in is, hey, I had so-and-so come to me, they're having this complaint, I've recommended they come to you. This is just kind of what we saw, on the floor.
Yep, I just want to make sure everybody's got that distinction. Like, don't just
Right.
send people to you like, oh, they hurt their back. Oh, yeah, just go up to 32 right now.
someone's,
To go to the ambulance to go see Kelsey.
Someone's
That's not
like,
right.
if your tibia is sticking out, please don't come see me, please. So what this treatment looks like, this is all tailored to you and your complaint. So whether it's something where we're seeing, pain or discomfort in your hip, it could be in your lower leg, whatever the case is, it's adapted to you and what your deficit and what your job specifically is. So whatever your job demands are, I make programs that are different for a master compared to a battalion chief to someone that's a paramedic. So all of it is tailored to you and your needs. SID Tier 2, busier station, I try to make it that there's quick rotation. So this is an example of one of them. This individual, they wanted their full corrective exercise program, but they wanted a 10-minute option too, that it was something that, hey, when I get into work, I might not have as much time. What's a 10-minute exercise program that I can do when I get to work, and then what's maybe a longer one I can do at home when I have more time. Also trying to make it that, like I said, no equipment at home, trying to make household items, or make it that you don't need any equipment or it's body weight. So everything is kind of tailored to what your needs are. So this one was specifically for someone with knee pain or knee tendinopathy, which is just tendonitis that's been lasting for a long time, but they also had concerns about some joint immobility and tightness. So we can kind of hit two birds with one stone of let's treat that knee issue, and let's also treat this, dysfunction or immobility that could cause a future problem too. And when I'm available, so my clinic is at Station 32. I'm there Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, so I hit every shift. That QR code that's up here now, that's linked to my Calendly page, so that's updated with all of my appointment times. It's linked to my calendar. So those are found on quick links. You can scan it here. I have magnets that I'm trying to get out to all the stations too that have the QR code on it, but everything's at 32. It's a private, secure space. We have the gym that's there too. That's really has pretty much every kind of equipment that you would want. And there's also the option too, if you have at your station multiple people with the same complaints. I've had that recently. Like, hey, we have 3 or 4 guys or girls on our shift that have low back pain. Like, could you come and see us and do a buckshot approach and deal with multiple people? That's something where an officer, someone on the shift, obviously including the officer, shoot me an email, say, hey, when are you available? We can schedule some time and I'll come out and kind of hit everybody. So something that's coming up too, end of this month, I'm piloting starting a clinic over at Station 12. So I had a little bit of feedback of people that are in the 1st Battalion, 2nd Battalion, and then people that commute, going north or going south, that sometimes 32 is not always convenient. So we're piloting having me stationed at 12 so that, whether you're in the 1st Battalion, it's a little bit easier for you to get detailed over there, or coming off, going on shift, or even if you're commuting north, and that's a little bit easier for you to pop off onto 12 versus 32. Those are the dates that are coming up in each of the shifts with times. If you have questions about that, reach out to your battalion chief in the 1st Battalion. I believe I have it sent out in the last newsletter that I had too, was on the bottom. But that'll be something we pilot and see how that goes and if that's something that people would benefit from too. So second piece is the injury prevention, which is kind of my favorite part. So preventing an injury from occurring. Obviously we can't prevent everything. There's, if you slam your finger in a door, I can't really prevent that. But providing mobility so that we can increase that joint flexibility, making it that, that muscle tension and tightness is not as frequent, and also making it that your joints are moving properly, and that's what's going to prevent that future issue down the line. Education on proper warm-ups for PT or your trainings. I've had a lot of issues with that too, that, have seen a lot of injuries prop up from people having issues after training, or, I experienced this during training and it was a very mundane activity. So warm-ups, of that sort of education. Corrective exercise for muscle imbalances. So this is something that we'll kind of talk about with the injury prediction, but addressing those before they cause a problem is really important too. And like I said here too, so addressing those common complaints that you guys usually see, that low back pain, shoulder instability, knee pain before they occur. Because obviously knowing the demands of your jobs, everyone kind of falls in the same kind of boats in terms of where that instability is. So what this program can look like. So with the last quarter, so this was shared in the safety dispatch, one of the biggest things that stuck out to me was lower back injuries. And I know this is pretty common across the entire fire service. So when I kind of looked at this, what I pulled from it was, I wanted to know what was the mechanism, like what were you guys doing? Yes, it was EMS incidents, but what were some of those documented mechanisms or complaints? And a lot of them were very mundane things, stepping in and out of apparatus, bending over to grab equipment, just bending over to tie your shoe was one of them too. So it's these very simple movements that you should be able to perform without hurting yourself, without having extreme pain. So what that tells me is that these are occurring due to some improper movement patterns, stability, mobility imbalances, that there's compensations that are happening within your body that are putting it more at risk for giving out or getting hurt during very simple activities.
And these aren't things like you're talking about that they're improperly moving when they're getting out of the apparatus of the SCBA. We talked about that before we came on the air. Like there's nothing natural or ergonomically correct about getting out of a fire truck with a 45-pound SCBA on your back, right? No matter what you do. So these are, you're saying, the chronic things that people are doing that you can probably correct in order to, when they make that unnatural movement that they really can't help, right? They have to make it in one way or another that it's less likely to injure them. Yeah,
so it's, those compensations that say you had some kind of lower body injury at some point in your career, and because of that injury, your body responds a specific way. There has to be compensations, like when you limp, when you have an injury to your ankle. Your body kind of has to reroute and rebalance itself to compensate for that complaint or that pain. So the same thing can happen even if you don't have an injury or a complaint at that moment. Your body can still kind of be imbalanced or not moving as properly. So that when these, simple movements happen, that's when, everything kind of gives out. So most of these back injuries too, very few of them are actually due to the spine. Most of them are actually due to overuse of the muscles that hold up the spine. So these muscles that hold up the spine are only meant to do just that. So when people say they throw out their back or they hurt their back, unless it was truly like a herniation or a disc-related issue, most of the time it's just those muscles were, forced to do the work of a different muscle group that was unbalanced or was compensating, and then they just give out. So it's kind of like an analogy I had from someone was, it's like the engine. You need at least 3 people to operate. So imagine you just have 2 or even 1 person. Yeah, you could do it, but for how long? When are you gonna burn out? It's gonna give up at some point. So when a muscle has to compensate for another, it only can until, you bend over, tie your shoes, and then it's game over. So joint mobility is kind of the first step for a lot of people where intervention starts, so making sure those joints are moving properly, and this is where that preventative mobility based on the job functions, job demands comes in handy. So One of them was pre-shift mobility that I had made. This is available on Quick Links too. So these are things that you don't need any equipment. You're already sitting for lineup for what, 20, 30 minutes. Why don't you all go do it where you have space? Yeah, right. Some of it could be an hour.
It could be 5 or 45 hours.
Exactly. But you're all there most of the time that you're there. Why don't you take this opportunity to do mobility before? This is what's going to prepare your body for the demands of the rest of the shift and make sure that you're moving properly for it too. So second piece too, I had some feedback from ECC. They're in their chairs for a majority of the day. Yes, they should be standing, but we also want it to be that there's an option if they're stuck in their chair. This also was something good for EMS when you're stuck at the ED for a long period of time. You probably can't get on the floor and do mobility and stretch, but something that you can do in a chair. Yeah, no. So not at some of our hospitals for sure. And I also had one that was based around the EMS call demand. So, you've come back from a code or you were on your knees for a long period of time at a specific call. This one was made for that. So, different movements and mobility exercises that you can do that are going to help prepare your body for that next call, and make it that you're not going to wake up at the end of the night and your whole body is completely sore, your hips are super locked up or tight. So all of these get adapted to specifically what your job demands are, maybe what some issues your shift has been experiencing. I just made one of those for one of our shifts, and one of our stations was, they had a lot of hip immobility and shoulder immobility. I made them their own specific mobility that they could do during group PT.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I can't make a professional assessment like you can, but I would say if you think you don't have any of these things or like you don't do anything to compensate or whatever, you're probably lying to yourself. Like just thinking about like, when we used to do CPR in a moving ambulance on the way to the hospital all the time, like just things like that, like lifting manual cots up like this into the ambulance, like either off the ground or loading it, like all these things, like you probably did some kind of damage down the line, even if it wasn't, probably just at work, let alone what you've done outside of work. So I'd say everybody probably is suffering from something.
Right, like you said before, like this job is very unpredictable and you guys get put in a lot of positions that aren't optimal. Like, you're not always gonna be able to lift someone ergonomically correctly. You're gonna be in confined spaces, you're gonna have to twist and turn. So it's using these as a tool to help prepare you to withstand those kind of movements in those situations. So what mobility does, if you make it a part of your daily routine, so using any of these or something that's tailored towards you, it just makes your joints more mobile, it's increasing blood flow, it's increasing joint lubrication, and then all of those muscles that connect into that joint, they also start to release too, because usually that's where the tension lies, is that joint isn't moving really well, and so those muscles start to kind of shorten and guard around it. So typically I've seen, the second that you have someone start mobility, that usually solves the entire problem. So where can you start to kind of prevent these injuries? This is where that prediction piece comes in. So mobility.
I have one question, sorry, about just the last thing on the prevention. So is it fair to say that like by doing these things, so like obviously we're kind of, professional athletes have the luxury of being able to warm up, right? They know when they have to perform, and doing these things, does that kind of like help offset that inability we have to warm up most of the time? Or like, are there things like if I'm getting off the treadmill or just got done doing a set of bench presses or whatever it is, and I have to run to the engine to run a first to fire, or even if I'm going from sleeping to doing that, does this kind of stuff ahead of time kind of help with that, or is there anything like that you don't have to get into specifics, but like do you have anything that you can like kind of guide people towards to like help you warm up, maybe even just a little bit if it's on the way to the call or something like that? Is that something you do too, or?
Yeah, I would say making this a part of like the daily morning routine and then in the evenings is what's going to help kind of prepare you for any kind of event during the day. So like for example, if I do mobility usually every morning. If I forget to, then I notice it. But I do it every morning that, I'm not doing the job that you guys are doing, but I do notice issues if I'm sitting at my desk for a long period of time. I start to get that upper back tightness that, there's not always times that you guys are going to have the time to warm up, but this is what's going to help kind of make sure those joints are moving properly.
So doing this intermittently is kind of like a constant state of being warmed up at least.
Exactly, and that's where it becomes like, if you're able to be disciplined about it and have it as part of a daily routine, that's when you're going to see the most result, is that you're not going to have to stretch your hamstrings every single time that you're on the way to a structure fire. It's going to be, hey, I did this mobility at the start of the shift, I did it before I got into bed, because realistically, starting at the top of the shift, you're just starting yourself off on the best kind of level before you start the rest of the day. Doing it at the end of the shift or before bedtime or before dinner, that's helping set you up because you're going to be, lying down, or you just ran all these calls during the day, just kind of rewriting all of those things that you had done in the first part of the morning. So it's just kind of keeping you in that optimal state of like good motion, that everything else. Yeah, yep. So injury prediction, this is another favorite part of mine that's been a lot of big area of interest for a lot of crews and a lot of stations. So those mobility and movement pattern assessments are great, but we also kind of want to look at where those joints might be at risk for that future injury. So previous history of injury is a really big predictor of dysfunction. So if you come in and tell me, hey, I had this, hip surgery, hip this, that, or the other, and now I'm having lower leg pain, that tells me a lot, is that there's probably something that was compensated from there. But if you don't know where to start, or you're like, hey, I'm not really having a lot of issues, but I do want to try to prevent my injury, extend my career, one of the most objective measures that I've found is the functional movement screen. So what that FMS test is, kind of the big metaphor around it, is you can only drive with a flat tire for so long. So if you get a flat tire, what you're going to do? You're going to go to replace. You're not going to go paint the outside of your car. So that's where this objective measure comes in, is that we're able to find those flat tires and correct them, and not just be, painting the exterior over and over again. So you can only move dysfunctionally for so long too, is where that comes in. So the FMS test, it's a screen that's designed to place an individual in certain positions that help to highlight movement deficits. So this is where we can kind of notice where there's instability or immobility that usually isn't picked up during a traditional screen. These are not things that are being done at FROMS or at your primary care or seen, when you do a regular routine physical. So this kind of gives you an idea of areas that you could build upon that are strengths for you, and then areas that you might want to focus a little bit more on to, combat instability, or where you might be a little bit more immobile, that those areas could maybe cause an injury at some point in your career. So, for example, I had an interest from a station that wanted to look at everyone's data from the test, and it scored a specific way. So they wanted everyone to be tested, but they also wanted the option to have it that they could all do a group PT working on those deficits together to kind of keep each other accountable. So using their data, we were able to make a program for them that was based around some of their instability and immobility issues. So the scoring for the FMS, it's a 0 to 3 scale. 3 is you're able to perform the movement perfectly. 1 is you kind of barely perform the movement, and 0 is you have pain. So once that gets scored, there's a lot of overlaps that kind of tell me, the big pinpoints of, oh, you're having this score on this specific motion, but you're also having the score on this one. That can point me towards maybe it's a hip stability issue. So that's what we did with this station was everyone kind of fell in similar categories, and we were able to make them that corrective exercise program that they could all do together too. Or it can be that we look at you individually. So this is the scoring sheet for each of the exercises. So this person specifically, the score on this one specific test, what that tells me is there's instability with the shoulder, the core, and also with single leg mechanics, which if you think a lot of times with your job, it's that single leg getting in and out of apparatus, going up and down stairs. So that scoring for each of these tells me a lot about where that person might have future issues. And then also looks at mobility. So this person, based on their scoring, is definitely going to have shoulder immobility issues, thoracic spine immobility issues, ankle, hip. So what I take from this as the individual is areas, like I said, that you can focus on training and loading, because that's areas that you're strong in, that you can keep building on, or it's areas that we might need to correct a little bit more. That could be weaknesses. So I guess kind of ultimately, like I keep saying, my goal is to keep you on the floor longer. I'm not trying to pull you off. I'm trying to keep you and give you all the tools that you would need and able to, stay on the floor, not miss overtime, not miss time on the job.
And so I guess on the FMS test, so like just I guess to know if you're a ticking time bomb, right? Because that's kind of how I look at it. I'm like, wow, if I like go
Right.
there, what if she tells me this? Like, when do you usually do that? Is that like when somebody comes in with a complaint, you do that, or is that something like preventatively? Like I can make an appointment, like, hey, I'm just curious, like, how do you? When do you prefer to do that? Is that
Right.
like what would be optimal?
So I like to do it, we do it with the recruit classes. So we started with this last class that we did the FMS test across everybody, and it gave us an idea of where they came in with issues that we could address early on. That was something where we could tailor their PT towards, hey, we had a lot of people that scored really low with hip stability. We need to focus on that more with PT to make sure we're not having all these people with all these low back, hip related problems. And also gave us an idea of where people might be a little bit stronger in that we can keep pushing them on. So we did it at that point. You can make an appointment with me to do it. I'm actually starting to now have it as an option for any station. If they want to contact me, we can do your entire crew. It takes about, I would say, like an hour to get through everyone usually. It's 7 movements, and each, depending on how many people, it takes like 5-10 minutes per each of them. And then from there, like for that one specific station, we can either compile all the data, do it together, or you can make it individual. If you're like, hey, I noticed a lot of issues with my specific one, could we maybe schedule an appointment to talk about this directly? I have had a couple people that have made appointments that are like, the exact same thing. I'm interested in like preventing something, but I don't know where to start. And this is kind of a good piece for that, is it gives you a building block of, okay, here's where my issues were. Here's what we can continue to work on with you, that that this is something you're interested in, but where can we start with it?
So ideally for me and my personal performance, it would be better to come to you before I have a complaint, get
Yeah.
this to potentially see where my issues
Yeah.
could pop up and then
Exactly.
do corrective
Yeah, and this is the biggest like predictor and then the preventer too, that not everyone has to have an active complaint in order to do the test. That I think this has kind of captured a lot of people too, that they're like, oh, I don't really need any kind of help because there's nothing wrong with me. And then I take them through this and they're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Like,
I think
that's
that's
not
big for
good.
people to know, because they might be like, now after watching this, be like, oh, cool. Like if I have a minor injury, I'll come see her. But
Right.
I mean, you could do something like this and potentially figure out, like you said, to prevent the injury even before it happens. So
Right. A big thing too that I did recently was I pulled all of the injury data, the initial injury data from the last year, and compiled it by station and battalion, and kind of looked at who were those stations that had really high injury numbers. And from there, I was like, hey, there's obviously something going on here. Why don't we offer this and kind of see where issues might be with those specific individuals and make it that they're not being pulled off the floor so frequently. Cool. So that was an option that I sent out to kind of those red zone people. Right. But regardless, if it's not something where like, hey, we've had a lot of people taken off the floor, if you're just like, I just want to make sure no one gets taken off the floor, we can come out and do this. So a couple events that I wanted to share that are coming up. So this then goes into those FMS testing. 2nd Battalion, you guys are getting a little extra time. I guess starting next Monday for 2 Mondays in a row, and then a Wednesday, I'm available out in the 2nd Battalion for station visits. So these are 2-hour time frames that you guys can either choose to do the functional movement screen we just covered. If you want to do joint mobility, we can go over that too. If you want education on a specific injury, so like for example, one station has had a lot of lower back injuries. They're like, hey, can you come talk about low back injury prevention? You can choose all 3 of them, you can choose one of them, but those are the days that are up here. And if you want to use the sign up, just let your battalion chief know. They have it through the JOT form. A shift, you guys are all booked up, but good job. So if there's any A shift stations in the 2nd Battalion that weren't able to sign up and want a specific appointment, just shoot me an email and we'll schedule another day. And the 3rd Battalion, you guys get May.
Kelsey, so
Yeah.
are you noticing that there's a lot of people requesting
The station visits?
your services and your trainer? And is there a specific injury that is most common to all of us that we
I
should
would-
be on the lookout for?
Right.
Guys, could they hear the question? Okay.
I would say it's been here and there with people making appointments. I think the biggest gap has just been knowing that I exist and what I'm here to help you guys with, and that I'm not like a scary person that's going to go tell on you to FROMS. But I have had a good amount of people in the field that have come to see me and either are still currently working with me, or they're those one-time things of, all right, you solved my problem, now my back doesn't bother me. I would say the biggest complaints I've seen is it's got to be low back. It's got to be low back or shoulders have been probably the big 2. And with those, it's usually kind of the same recipe of how to treat that across everybody. Because like I said, most of those low back pains are not coming from the spine. It's you got to fix the hips. And once you fix the hips, low back pain completely goes away.
And what are some of those things?
Hip mobility, hip stability, gait training. So like working on the way that you're able to walk and move. Sometimes looking at your shoes too, because your shoes are kind of like your tires as well, is that if they're not holding you upright, your axle's going to be off, you're not going to be moving properly. So I kind of do that whole assessment with people with low back pain, is looking at the entire person. So not just focusing on the low back, looking up at the thoracic spine. That could be some part of the problem too, because your body's like a chain. So everyone's a little bit different, but I would say the biggest has been thoracic spine mobility, hip mobility, and hip stability are usually those quick fixes for low back pain.
Thanks.
And then 3rd Battalion in May, you guys are getting 3 Mondays as well. And again, same exact things as the 2nd Battalion. So just let your battalion chief know. They have the link. They should have sent it out to you, and you guys can sign up for those time frames. I've got a couple people that are signed up on some of the days now. And then Swiftwater, I'll be out with you guys each Thursday in May for your animal training. So this will be a time for you guys to either ask me questions about issues you might be having in your training or common injuries. It's also a good opportunity for me to kind of look at you from a scientific lens as well. I'm obviously not going to go out and start like creepily looking at people, but looking at your biomechanics, your functional movements, all of those things to see where some kind of injury prevention could be of use or something that we could change or help with to make it that people aren't getting hurt during training or on the river as frequently.
Just out of curiosity, was that like, how did you arrive at the discipline, like the Swiftwater training discipline? I know you said you did ride-alongs, I guess, when you started
Yeah.
regular field operations, so you kind of looked at that. Are you trying to do like every discipline, or was there just like more like different kinds of injuries noted with Swiftwater, or like how did that come
It
about?
was,
Just out of curiosity.
I did ride along with each of the stations. I had reached out to Chief Hinkle just with the interest of, hey, I want more, you know, exposure with the different specialties that
everything
Swiftwater,
that we do,
yeah,
right,
so
yeah.
Swiftwater was the first one to kind of be like, hey, we've got this training coming up, why don't you just come out? I had gone out with Swiftwater last summer, and that was at the point where I was still kind of learning what this job entailed, so I didn't look at it from the lens that I have now. So Swiftwater's just been the first one that stepped up. But whenever hazmat or TRT has a more physically taxing training, then I'm available for those too. This is actually an exciting thing too that'll be happening up at the academy. So we were kind of brainstorming up here. I'd heard a lot of feedback in the field about wanting more of the resources that the recruits get. So whether it's PT, my services, what have you, we were kind of thinking through what would be the best way to get that out to the field. So, you know, our peer fitness trainers are here until 10 a.m. They start at 7. You know, from that 9 to 10 a.m. time frame, we're completely free. We don't have those recruits right now. So we're going to have it that every Wednesday each month is going to be open PT is kind of what we've coined it. And that's something where you guys can come off going as a shift. You can come as a person. You can come as a unit. And each of those Wednesdays will be a different theme. So that first day, kind of on our inaugural day, I'd say on the 8th, we'll go through the FMS if people want to go through it and kind of see where they want to start. And then they're also going to go over how to build a circuit program. So whether it be for your station or at home, kind of where to start. Second week's going to be how to build a strength program. So testing your 3 rep max and deadlift, back squat, bench, and front squat. And from there, kind of creating that 12-week program for you for strengthening. Third week is going to be my day, so injury prevention specifically for the low back. That'll be, we'll take you through the entire corrective exercise program I have for the recruits for low back pain. And then last week's going to be kind of a dealer's choice of whatever circuit the recruits did that week, we'll take everyone through. And this will be an opportunity that, you know, if you don't know where to start, if, you know, in physical fitness, or you don't know where to kind of turn to or what ideas that you could, you know, are available to you, this is where those peer fitness trainers are available. I'm available on the injury prevention day to answer those questions, kind of set you up for success. And then also it's an opportunity from 9 to 10 on shift that you can come and work out and you don't have to think about what to do.
So two thoughts that I have. One, are we sharing this information with like FRSL email, or is Chief Stanton going to send something out?
So I got the JOP form for it today. Okay. I was going to tell you about that today. Okay. But I believe it should go to anyone within the department. So whether it be someone that's at headquarters and you're interested in coming working out, even someone that's here, you know, it's anyone that's interested in having some kind of instruction with peer fitness or fitness in general. I think it should go out to.
And then also, can you elaborate a little bit on the work you've been doing, which I think it's very important with the recruits on Wednesday, and how you've incorporated your services into recruit training? Right,
so I started with, what was that, I came in about 2 recruit classes ago, about halfway through. I guess that would have been 52, RC 52. So I had all of RC 53, and then I've had all our RC 54 currently. And what we've been able to do is adapt the PT program that each Wednesday I'm kind of in charge of them. So with the last recruit class, we did an active recovery day that each Wednesday was focused on, for a period of weeks, what a common injury in the fire service was. So whether it's a shoulder injury, low back pain, knee, ankle, hip, we kind of covered and set them up for success and almost started that corrective exercise early. From the last class, I'd say we were pretty successful. We had 2 non-preventable injuries. Everyone else stayed relatively safe, I would say. And then this class, we've had one non-preventable injury. So we've kind of been able to keep everyone in-house, keep them, you know, in PT and in the academy for as long as possible, and making it that they have all the tools for when they go out into the field. They're able to, whether it be prevented future injury because they have all the tools and the knowledge, or they're able to be physically sound that they're not going to have those injuries happen. So they kind of get a taste for, hey, these are big problems that we see in the fire service, and we want to make sure that you don't experience them. So that's kind of been the biggest thing on Wednesdays up here for us is
Yeah, no,
is
that's
giving
great.
them that.
It's great because it's been really good, and I definitely appreciate not losing as many kids.
I mean, there's been a noticeable difference just, you know, doing hill training with recruits, you know,
Yeah.
having less people on light duty and just general performance, I think, is better. And it has actually been noticeable. Like, I'm not just blowing smoke. It is.
Yeah,
Right.
one question from the chat. Have you had any chance to work with any of the volunteers or the LFRDs?
I've met with a couple of the volunteer companies. I've worked with a couple of people. I just think that it's been a little bit difficult with their work schedules and like their, you know, real lives to come and see me, but I am available to them, and I've had a few here and there.
If they wanted to reach out to you off hours, is there a process that they can?
They can just send me an email, and I think I have my email on my email is at the very bottom of this slide too, and that's the same Calendly link. But yeah, they can email me. I've given the option too for volunteers, because obviously I know that they're working their real life jobs during the day. I've had virtual appointments or phone call appointments with people.
Oh, that's great. That's
Yeah,
great.
that if that needs to be an option, I'm available for that too. You know, obviously there's only so many things we can do like virtually, but it still is an opportunity to ask questions and answer questions and everything.
Great.
So, any other questions or anything from the chat?
That's it.
That was it.
Cool.
Cool. That means I did a good job.
No, I think that's great. So yeah, I think it's a very valuable service that you provide that I didn't know enough about, I think, beforehand, unless I've already kind of made a commitment to myself, like, yeah, I should probably do that, that screening and everything too. Like, is my hip hurting? Is my back hurting? What's the cause of it? So, no, I think it's awesome. So thank you very much for coming. If you don't already read it, it's a quarterly or monthly newsletter?
Yeah, it's a monthly newsletter.
Okay,
So I try to
monthly.
make it a different theme each month, whether it's, you know, there's like a monthly observance for something. So March was National Athletic Training Month. So I tried to make that all based around like what I do, like who I am. But I try to keep it something that would pertain to you guys in the fire service, but that has any kind of wellness information, intervention information that's through there each month. And that comes from Chief Stanton.
Yeah. And I just saw the one the other day, and the QR code's on the bottom of that too. So if you're not sure, you know, if you forget how to contact it, maybe it'll spur somebody to remember to make an appointment or to see you about something. So cool. Just everybody keep a lookout for that. Do you have anything else before I wrap up, or is that it?
No, that's it.
All right, cool. So I think we're right about at time, maybe a few minutes early, but we're pretty much perfect to our 60 minutes.
Awesome.
So again,
Thank you.
thanks. Yeah, thanks again for joining us. Just a couple wrap-up items for everybody. Upcoming events. So on April 29th, we have our next episode, which is also going to be a Challenges in the Streets. That's going to be our rescue engine episode that we ironed out. So we have a pre-filmed segment, and then Rescue Engine 714 is going to be here to do a static demonstration, a walk around. I believe Captain Randall will be joining me, just kind of talk a little bit about how those units are utilized and dispatched and so on and so forth. So that's going to be covering specifically Rescue Engine 709 and Rescue Engine 714, since those are our two dispatched rescue engines in the county. On May 10th, we have a Wheel in the Rig episode scheduled. So Master Firefighter Collins will be here. We're talking a little bit about the interface between safety, accidents, stuff like that, what happens in that whole process. So that'll be on May 10th. And then we're also in the process of getting, it'll either be just from the command post or a hybrid boss talk from the command post, together with the A-shift units from Battalion 5 that ran the Old 100 Road brush fire in Nines area. So those are the upcoming events, and I think that's it for today. So thanks again, everybody, for joining us this episode of Challenges in the Streets, and we'll see you next time.